What's up, guys? I'm EJ Stewart, joined by Kendall here today. We're going to be talking about Hawkeye, the season finale, episode 6. So This Is Christmas, Kendall. This was a highly anticipated episode because we expected to see Wilson Fisk himself, Kingpin. We did see him in this episode, and he actually ended up driving quite a great deal of the plot in this episode. I was a little surprised at how much of a factor he played into this. But we're gonna have a lot to talk about in terms of what we saw from that character, how much it was similar to the Netflix series, and where he's going moving forward. And then we have plenty of other character development involving, of course, Barton and Kate, Eleanor Bishop. There's plenty to get to on this show, so it should be a good one.
Yes. Good amount of Yelena Belova as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was a very interesting episode. I'm excited to talk about it. You're right. I thought there would be more Kingpin than I think you guys did.
Yeah.
But still, I wasn't so sure that he would be portrayed in the way he was. So that'll be a curious conversation. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely jam packed. I mean, throughout the season, I've mentioned how I've thought that this show has gone pretty slow, and each episode's gone slow. I feel like this finale really ratcheted up the pace and the intensity quite a bit. So excited to talk about it.
It's funny because we talked about last week, would he be, quote unquote, the big bad of the series? And I think while you thought that he would certainly have a bigger role than maybe me and Shamari did, I know you were saying, I don't know if he'll necessarily be the big bad per se. I think this episode kind of shapes him up in many ways as the big bad.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So the episode begins, we saw, of course, some of the commercials last week, but the episode begins with him in this meeting with Eleanor Bishop, who was called this meeting with him. We see him in the white suit jacket, the black shirt underneath, looking very similar to the Wilson Fisk character that we saw in the Netflix series. And basically, this is Eleanor's meeting to break off their relationship. And this is where we end up getting a lot of exposition in regards to what their relationship has been and how it fits into the narrative that we've seen for Eleanor and even Kate's upbringing, because we began the series with these financial issues that her and her father were dealing with, Eleanor and of course her husband. And now we learn that it stemmed from this kind of business dealing he had with Kingpin, this debt that he had with Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
And that essentially once Mr. Bishop passed, it was then on her to repay this debt, and she's done so by essentially being an acolyte in the criminal underworld that Wilson Fisk has ran. Before we even get into anything else, what did you make of kind of how they set all that up? She's been very much in the business when it comes to the criminal underworld, despite the fact that she runs a security firm, and that they're fortunate that they've been able to reamass over these years to allow Kate Bishop to go to elite schools and train and do these things was because of the money she was getting from Wilson Fisk.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was an interesting. It was an interesting angle. I mean, clearly they were in cahoots after last week. So it wasn't like it was a shocker, but getting a more in-depth breakdown of what happened there, and why they were in cahoots, what the psychology was of that was interesting. And I mean, again, the introduction into Vincent D'Onofrio, it becomes very clear the minute he opens his mouth that he's playing a very, very, very similar character to the one he played in Daredevil. So that I think was the biggest takeaway there.
Yeah, and I remember I saw, Vincent's done plenty of interviews since episodes came out, and he has said in multiple interviews that, when they came to him, he said, "Look, what I want to do is I want to be able to, take the life experience of the Netflix character into the role. That's how I played the previous role, and that's gonna be what educates me with whatever role I would play if I'm playing this character again." And Marvel, Kevin Feige, they were like, "Great, that's what we want you to do."
Yeah.
So we can go back and forth about how much is canon from the Netflix world, but I think what's most important is the backstory to Wilson Fisk and all the things that he goes through that kind of makes him the man that he is. All that stuff is true. Now, will there be a little bit of alterations maybe when you get closer and closer to today, compared to when we last saw him in Daredevil? It may be, it's still I guess TBD. But I thought that was very important because I think a lot of people, because of D'Onofrio's just stellar performance, they didn't want to see a reimagining of what it was already a strong character.
Yeah, and D'Onofrio, in terms of the Kingpin's sort of where he's been, over this big gap, he mentioned in one of these interviews that, look, he said the blip happened and Kingpin's, kingdom sort of isn't the same as it was before. And I think
And we kind of see that.
Yeah, we see. He's a little more underground now. He's a little bit. He's working very hands on. He's working with Kazi, and it's not like he has a huge. Yeah, he has the tracksuits, but even we talked about it before. Why is Kingpin working with the tracksuits?
Right.
These guys are as bumbling as they
Right,
are.
exactly.
Well, maybe his fortress and his kingdom that he mentioned, again, maybe it's not the same.
Yeah, and that could end up being a very convenient way to explain away, what the guy we saw from Netflix and how his operation is. Because that was one of the first things I mentioned when this series started, when we were talking about it. It's like, if Kingpin's part of this,
New York.
Yeah, if he's part of this, I mean, this is not a very buttoned up operation I'm seeing from these tracksuits. So what happened to him? And the blip could potentially be an angle that could work a great deal. So it'll be, I will be very much paying attention to how they play into that moving forward. So first of all, I owe an apology to Yelena and Kate's phone carriers, because I kept saying that was a terrible photo. Now I realized, it was a video. So so the video was very clear. So clearly they do have a good phone plan. So I don't want to diss that per se. But so we back on the flip side, we see this conversation play out, but they're watching this conversation play out through video. I don't know how.
Which I thought was a little strange.
I don't know how Yelena got that great audio
she's a widow
from afar, from a rooftop somewhere.
I'll give them that. Even I don't know, sending a video like that high quality on a flip phone or whatever she had. I don't know. It all seemed kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, she's a widow. The technology, I'm sure she's strong with it. So.
Yeah. I guess you're going to have to suspend disbelief a little bit with that one, because I was like,
I thought the picture made sense. I was like, it's very easy.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And keep it moving.
Right, yeah.
When I saw she had a full video, I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. But so we see that's a video, and obviously Kate is, confused and devastated. She's learning that, her mom killed Armand.
Yeah.
That her mom framed Jack Duquesne. Which we saw, and you were just 100% on the money last week. 100% on the money.
I mean, they did a great job, because they got me for a while. I was just waiting for the turn, and then when I saw him getting framed, I was like, oh, he's just a red herring. That's crazy.
Yeah, and we confirmed that it's a red herring. That that he's kind of the shadow person for Sloan, but of course she's the one that's running Sloan Enterprises. That's under Wilson Fisk. So great big reveals that kind of set up this this kind of change in approach and change in I think heart for both Kate and Clint. Kate obviously furious, feeling like she's got to take her mom down at this point, and also feeling like, look, at this point we're nearing Christmas. You've done all you could do in terms of helping me, Clint. Now this is all on me.
Yeah.
And Clint, partly because he probably realized, I'm not going to send Clay out there against freaking Wilson Fisk by herself. But still, he says, hey, you're my partner, and now your mess is my mess, and that we're in this together. I think it fully solidifies this union that they have, this bond that they have, and this partnership that they have.
So the moment that she finds out everything about her mom, and it's the big twist, do you feel like is that one of the bigger 0 to 100 moments that we've had in these Disney Plus series, in terms of the series being flipped on its head? Because I mean, we knew that she was involved in shady stuff at that point, but it still wasn't 100% nailed down. It wasn't 100% convinced, and so for the character to find out basically everything that's been going on in a matter of seconds is not something I don't know if we've seen yet. Really, in these series.
And I'll be honest, I've seen
slow burn.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple people, ask the question, did this series need more episodes? Because I think that this episode is very entertaining, in part because it's so fast.
Right.
But in terms of just the perfect right storytelling, was this the best way to do this? I think they maybe could have used one more episode. I think that perhaps maybe seeing some of these themes kind of play out in a more natural way, as opposed to just Eleanor Bishop just being in a chair talking to Wilson Fisk. Right. As entertaining as that is.
Explaining everything that's happened.
Yes, and let me be clear. It was very entertaining to see that conversation happen, but to perhaps maybe do a different route in terms of how you want to tell that story. That might have been a better way to do it, because I do feel like a lot of these things move very fast. I mean, to me, it was like it was a very interesting introduction to Wilson Fisk, because I felt like this was Wilson Fisk was having a very bad day in this first introduction into the true traditional MCU because he's got Eleanor Bishop saying, "Look, I'm out," and he's just like, "What do you mean you're out? This is not how this works," you know.
Yeah.
And perhaps that does also speak a little bit to maybe his operation not being as
The fact that she felt
tightened up that she thinks that she could just walk away
him,
from Wilson Fisk. I mean, when we watched the Daredevil show, you know, you had people killing themselves just for saying his name, and now you have someone saying, I'm going into retirement. I'm not doing this anymore." So that was that was an interesting thing to happen. And then you had Maya again. It's like a bad day. Maya comes in, seems like hours later, being like, you know, because he's telling Nikazi, like, "Oh, we gotta cut this stuff out with Ronin and whatever the hell's going on with that." And he's trying to get to her, "Hey, you know, the block is too hot. I need you to chill." And she's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna leave." Again, Wilson Fisk is like, you don't just leave whenever I tell you to leave. But also, I think he doesn't believe that she's gonna let this go, or that you know, he clearly feels like there's a shift in kind of her mindset. So now he's like, all right, now I got two problems. I gotta deal with this Eleanor Bishop, and now I gotta deal with Maya, who clearly is ready to double cross me. So he's in a very tough predicament going into this night. And again, it brings me back to that question of what was so odd about some of this was, you know, we've seen Wilson Fisk use the hand. We've seen Wilson Fisk use very intense, very much more kind of rock solid measures to weed out any kind of issues that may come to him. It was very odd that Kazi was his guy at this point, but that makes, again, speak to how his operations are a lot different because of what happened in that Thanos snap.
Yeah, I mean,
Kazi being your shooter, I'm just like, that's the best you could do. You couldn't find a bullseye or somebody to figure this whole thing out. I don't know.
I would say this has probably been, in terms of the public discourse so far, I think this has probably been the biggest controversy.
Yes.
Have they nerfed Kingpin? Have they buried him? You know, in the video game sense, that nerfing a character is, you know, weakening the character. Have they weakened the Kingpin, the Wilson Fisk character that we knew from Daredevil? Now, physically, he's stronger. I mean, he's grabbing doors from cars and ripping them off. He's a little bit bigger and clearly more physically imposing. But is he, even with the added physical strength, you feel like he wasn't as menacing as he was in the Daredevil series? I mean, I didn't. Now this is skipping to the end, but I didn't agree with the decision to have him fighting one-on-one with Kate Bishop. I thought that was a strange decision.
Because that's in wrestling terms, that's what we call booking yourself into a corner.
Right.
Because you're at the finale, and Kate's got to go over in the end because it's the finale.
Right.
And now you introduced a villain who is supposed to be like almost an unstoppable monster.
Yeah.
You booked yourself into a corner with that scenario. It was cool to play out, but it's almost like you can't win however you book it, because if he breaks Kate's back or something, and it's like, oh my god,
that's why that's why to me it didn't make sense.
You know, or if and then what happens, which, you know, people are saying he lost. I don't know if I say he lost. I mean, he was doing a lot of damage, and
by the end,
it was more about the fact that he couldn't get to his mom.
Yeah, they weren't going to try and take him out. They were trying to just get away.
Because Kate wasn't trying to, like, I'm gonna beat you down to the point where you're gonna be incapacitated, kind of like how Matt did in the end of season of 3 of Daredevil. This was not that. This was just, I mean, she's hitting him with 800 different kinds of arrows. He's walking through all of them, essentially.
Right.
It was just a matter of, I can't let you get to this door to kill my mom, which he's able to succeed in that. But I do get the idea that perhaps, you know, her beating Kingpin in a fight is not the best way to have your first introduction to him.
If it was Jeremy Renner, and I'm a little upset we didn't get any real interaction between them, but if it was Jeremy Renner, that's another conversation. He's an Avenger. He's, you know, I'm not as broken up about Kingpin not being able to fight Hawkeye or losing to Hawkeye, but I thought the Kate Bishop thing was weird. And look, I mean, you know, overall, I mean, like you said, the operation is fine, but it just felt different. He was very hands on, like you said. In the other shows, or in Daredevil rather, he was you didn't really feel his presence. You felt his presence, but you didn't really see him doing anything a lot of times till the end.
Yeah.
Or very specific scenes. It wasn't like he wasn't walking around doing stuff. And in this case, it felt like their business was a lot different. So I don't know. It's been a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Some people, obviously he's going with the family business look where he's got the Hawaiian shirt from the Spider-Man comic, but some people thought that looked kind of goofy with the hat. And so I don't know.
I just didn't. Yeah, and I saw some people were upset about the look by the end. I wasn't mad about it because that was very Kingpin to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, I mean, now we haven't really seen the Kingpin like maybe look like that in the Netflix series,
Right.
but it didn't seem like that much of a leap. Even for that character, but definitely for the Kingpin character that we've known for all these years.
I think people's issue, because I mean, I agree. I mean, look, the look isn't that important, but I think people's issue, I guess, is because it's a character we haven't seen in so long.
Right. Why?
Yeah. Why are we even doing these gimmicks?
Yeah.
I just wanted Kingpin. I just wanted Wilson Fisk, and you gave us Wilson Fisk. You gave us a whole episode, but there are a lot of people that feel like it didn't feel 100% like Wilson Fisk. And again, I thought he played the character
extremely well.
Yeah, I thought he played him extremely well. I thought he played
him
very similarly to how he did in Daredevil. I just think maybe the writing was a little off.
I wonder
in terms of how they positioned his character.
And I wonder, we've talked about in the past how when they've done movies where they've involved characters from other franchises, how they've consulted the directors who worked on those projects. So when you do an Infinity War, the Russo brothers are consulting Ryan Coogler.
Right.
They're consulting John Watts, to bring in Spider-Man, things like that. Yeah, you're right. James Gunn was a consultant on that film. You wonder if, and the answer I'm almost certain is zero. Is no. There's no way it happened. But you wonder if two people who worked on Daredevil were consulted.
I think the consulting was with D'Onofrio.
With D'Onofrio, I agree.
What do you want for the character? What do you think we should do? And look, D'Onofrio said, I mean, the family business costume was his idea.
Yes.
He was like, that's my screensaver on my computer is the family business cover from fighting Spider-Man. And so, like, yeah, I mean, that's something he would want to do, and that's fine. And because in part, it refreshes the character for him. He's like, I'm not just doing the same old.
Right.
I'm, adding layers to the character, but some people, were a little bothered by it, I guess.
Yeah. The look didn't bother me as much. Not much bothered me. The only thing that maybe I was kind of like, I'm not sure I would have done that was, again, the fight with Kate was just it's a hard thing it's a hard thing to book. Like, I don't know how you end that fight.
I don't put them in that situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't put them in that situation either. I think that, also, I think they made a lot of curious decisions. I think it was a curious decision to have the fight. I thought it was a curious decision to keep Eleanor Bishop around. I mean, I would have been totally fine, honestly, with Kingpin killing her. Because I think the other problem, too, is we don't really see, like, Kingpin doesn't, what we saw in the Netflix series is that Kingpin was very proficient in, like, whatever he needed to get done. Most of the time, they got done. That's why he was such a pain in the side of Matt, because it was like an impossible enemy.
Right.
And again, time has changed, so his circumstances have changed. So I understand that. But we just see him take a lot of L's in this one. It seems like he's taking L's from the minute he's on screen.
And that's why people are upset.
And that's why people are upset. And I understand that. Like, to me, like, he should have got a W somewhere. He should have went home with a feather in his cap with something. He starts the episode saying, Eleanor Bishop thinks that she could just walk away. Maya thinks she could walk away. Like, It's time people understand who I am.
Right.
And we don't really see people understand who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he does some damage. I mean, again, he's throwing Kate Bishop around like I've never seen him throw people around.
Right.
So there was some great moments from him, but we just didn't see that feather and him leaving with that feather in his cap to realize, okay, we know who this guy is and we know how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
But they could be coming to something where they want to build. They want to have a story where they can build them up to that again.
Right.
Maybe Marvel feels like they don't want people to just rely on whatever was in Netflix, and he's just doing stuff, and people who aren't familiar with those shows don't know what's going on.
Right.
Maybe they feel, okay, you're going to see him maybe a little bit down bad. Yeah, he's going to be a little down bad when you first see him, but by the time you see him in a movie or at the end of Echo, maybe he's the same guy, So I'm giving them a little bit of a break on that.
You mentioned Echo. Did you want to talk about her story arc in this?
Yeah, so I mean, Echo. So again, she starts going to Wilson Fisk. You know, when Fisk is having a bad day because Eleanor Bishop's like, I'm out. So he calls Echo in because he's like, Yo, what are you doing, fam? Like, you know that this is causing too much static. So like,
Yeah,
you need to chill. And you know, Maya doesn't look all that happy to be in this conversation. She she has this information now that from Clint that Wilson Fisk wanted her father killed, and he's talking about how I know I loved your father and stuff. So I'm sure that's not putting her in a good mood
yeah,
hearing this stuff from someone that now she has doubts about whether or not she was really, he really did love her father, and that
yeah,
perhaps maybe he's the reason why her father is dead. So she kind of reluctantly kind of agrees to say, you know what, yeah, I'm just gonna just take a vacation and I'm just gonna chill and whatever. And it was kind of not really, from his, it wasn't his suggestion, it was something that she just said, but he saw that as her saying, I'm gonna do something. I don't think he really knew, but I think he knew that she was becoming a loose end that had to be tied immediately.
yeah,
So after he tells Kazi, we need to figure this thing out. Seeing Eleanor and now Maya's going rogue, we can't continue. And then it leads to Maya. We'll have to talk about a lot about that whole big fight scene at Rockefeller Center, which I thought was excellent. I
yeah,
thought it was a really
yeah. The action
excellent.
was really
The
good.
action was really great in this episode. In the midst of this fight, a lot of it, Kazi's a big part of it. Between him trying to snipe the people at the party to him even trying to get onto the ice to join the fight with the rest of the tracksuits. Maya ends up fighting Kazi, on the ice, where she's trying to say that hey, I want you to come with me and we can leave this together. And he's like, there is no leaving. That was like the first time he finally got to finally someone would say, no, there's no leaving Wilson Fisk. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
this is just your life if this is what you're doing. And it leads to that fatal encounter where she's forced to kill Kazi in close quarters. And by the end, Wilson Fisk, having left the toy store, hobbled and limping, but hey, still kicking. I mean, this guy was run over by a car,
that
hit
was crazy.
by all different kinds of crazy trick arrows, flashbang, actual explosive arrows. I mean,
Yeah,
for the people who keep saying he looks weak, I mean,
yeah,
he took a lot of punishment and
yeah,
was
yeah,
walking on his own by the end. He runs into an alley and Maya's waiting for him.
yeah,
And Maya waiting for him. I like this. A lot of people are upset, but he's doing the Wilson Fisk thing. He's trying to be manipulative, saying, "Oh, I knew you'd come through for me." Earlier in the episode, he's saying he's gonna take her out,
yeah,
and now us together we can rebuild this thing and whatever. And she pulls the gun on him, and we don't see what happens, but we hear the gunshot flare off, and of course this is basically taken almost identically from the comic books involving Echo, in the Daredevil comic books. I liked Echo's whole run in this show. I think her part in this episode was strong. Um, I really liked her scene with Wilson. Both scenes, honestly, with Fisk, I thought were really exceptional. I thought the fight scene with Kazi was a little. I didn't quite understand some of the motivation there. I don't know how you felt. Like, I felt like before she had this idea that maybe he was an informant. So, but then here she didn't seem to bring any of that energy to that encounter. It seemed like she wanted him to run away with her. So I didn't quite get that part of it.
I guess you felt like he's just a pawn in this. It
Mm.
wasn't, he couldn't really do anything, which then goes back to your point. Well, why are you asking him to leave? He knows he can't do anything.
Right?
But
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess maybe she's like, well, I can protect you. You know
yeah,
how
I
that
can save
goes.
you.
There was clearly, I think, there was some romantic tension. I think that they were trying to. They didn't want it to be super over the top and super overbearing over the story, which I like, by the way. I think
Right,
I
right,
like
right,
that it was very understated,
right.
and I think they were trying to give you some of that in that scene, but it was very much kind of underneath the surface.
Yeah. Kazi's character is interesting. There, is he actually dead? We don't know that.
Yeah,
We
yeah, we
think,
just know he's
yeah,
stabbed.
yeah,
He
he was
looked dead. He
stabbed.
definitely looked dead.
He looked like he was dead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um.
he's dead for what it's worth.
Yeah. I
You seem to be
thought.
skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, initially I thought he was dead, but uh, you just think about these characters, and we think about the Echo series.
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna show up again? Is he gonna become a villain in his own right? Become someone else? Very similar to the Jigsaw character in Punisher,
Right.
where you kind of think he's dead for a little bit, and you realize, obviously he's gonna become someone else. But is I mean, yeah, I mean, I thought her character arc was fairly interesting. I feel like they cut some stuff with
Mm.
this last arc in this last episode. Um, we know that they cut some stuff because there are set photos of her with Jeremy Renner, and she's in a more traditional costume. She's got the face paint, on
Yeah.
her eye, and so that there was something there that they decided to cut out.
Yeah.
But yeah, this her story was interesting, but I feel like it needed more fleshing out, and maybe that's why they're doing a whole series. I guess to me, I just feel like getting to the moment where we're doing all of this with Kingpin and all these interactions with Kingpin should have happened in the Echo series. Now I'm wondering what is the Echo series? Because I thought the Echo series was her trying to get.
I think the Echo series is the Kingpin revenge.
Yeah,
story.
now it's Kingpin going after her, which could be even more interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually. That's why I disagree. That's why because I think that now this makes this Echo series more interesting to me because she thinks she has finished Kingpin, and by the way, we didn't really talk about it. There's a 0% chance he's dead.
Yeah,
0. So anybody upset, like, relax. He's not dead. Again, this guy was ran over by a car. Literally, an explosive arrow exploded, and like I thought, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna be damaged because all the things that were around him just like disintegrated, and he was just like flying through the air, but he wasn't hurt in any way besides like scars or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not dead, and in the comics, he's shot in the face and he just loses his eyesight. He's blind. Very ironic considering, of course, his arch nemesis is Daredevil, but.
Right.
So to me, this is going to be interesting because maybe Echo decides, okay, I'm going to take a different path to trying to find something else, and she's going to learn very quickly that not only is Kingpin alive, but that now he has reason to truly take you out, and that may be why someone like Matt Murdock has to feel like he has to come in and help because when Kingpin sets his targets on somebody, he don't miss. Normally, he misses twice today. In this episode, but not normally.
There's been some people wondering is Murdock going to be involved in that alley scene in some way?
With the shot going off?
Maybe he came in and saved Kingpin.
Interesting.
Stopped her from shooting him.
That would be interesting.
That's obviously one possibility, but yeah, I'm still I'm still where I think a lot of people are right now, where I think my excitement for the Echo series, a lot of it is centered around Daredevil and Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still time for that to change. There's still trailers. There's still, you find out what the actual story is going to be, and that could be very interesting. But yeah, I thought she had an interesting character arc in the series. I just thought that it moved fast, but they're doing it so they can get to her series, and I think that they have an idea that her series is going to be really good. I think my guess is I think Marvel thinks that the story that they're going to tell in her series is going to be more interesting than the story they told for her in this. But they had to do whatever they did in this to get to the Echo series. Because I don't think you greenlight the Echo series just based off of reception. Like the Agatha series that we got, I don't think Marvel had plans to do that until the reception was a certain way. And now they're just coming up with a story that could be very good. But I think the Echo series, I think they have a very interesting story that they want to tell. Which is why they greenlit it before we even knew if this character was popular.
Yeah, before we even saw this.
Yeah.
This show, So I agree with you. And I think that there is definitely a plan that's gonna work. And what this show showed me too, I think there are a couple of things that make Echo interesting. One, she potentially tries to kill Wilson Fisk. We talk about the heroes that are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no one I can think of besides Iron Man who tries to kill people,
Right.
Like everyone is kind of, Hulk is out of control, but like we don't actually ever see him kill anybody or try to kill anybody. She's the only character that like within her own right frame of mind, like, I'm gonna kill this person. And that
and Captain America in First Avenger during World War II.
Who did he kill in First Avenger?
Well, just random Hydra Nazis and whatnot.
He was using a gun. We don't know if he was shooting to kill.
Even war. I'm not even mad at him. I'm just saying.
Kendall.
You'd be a bad soldier if you were out there. You weren't.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother.
Okay. Kendall was thinking like a Frank Castle Captain America we had over there in overseas in Germany. But yeah, and that was a long time ago.
Right,
But
right, yeah,
so I think that this could be the introduction to much darker heroes who
yeah,
maybe their moral compass is a little more blinded. Echo is not someone who's afraid to kill people,
yeah.
so it's very it makes sense for this character. So that I think that was an interesting way to leave her character. I honestly don't think I needed her in another scene with Jeremy with the face paint on. Like I think that like seeing that be the last thing and being like, yeah, we're doing a series on this person who's going to be a hero. It's like, well, she did not end on a very heroic note.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I think that there's something to go with there. So I think the other big piece of this episode was the chase between Yelena and Kate, just for her just trying to get to Clint Barton, which is going on throughout all this chaos through this Christmas party, and then eventually the fight scene on the ice between uh, Yelena and Clint, where she is saying that this is great. I get to finally take you out. You're responsible for what happened to my sister, and here we go. And this is pretty much kind of like most. It is pretty much like it's like in some ways like a cliche for like a lot of these kind of like superhero fight scenes where the person's like, I'm not gonna fight you, but like I
Right,
understand your pain.
right.
Because I mean, she's whooping Clint left and right,
Yeah,
but he's not really fighting back. He's trying to get her to understand that like I did not want Natasha to die. I could not stop her from
yeah.
sacrificing herself. And if I could do it all over, I would try again and I would still fail. And it didn't matter if you were there or I was there. There was nothing stopping Natasha from doing what she did. And I
It
thought these scenes were good.
it sort of did a better job of explaining what the question that we had a couple weeks ago, where it was like, or last week, whatever it was,
Yeah.
when we were asking, what exactly does anyone know about what happened on Vormir?
Yeah.
We really don't know, and clearly they explained in this one she didn't really know.
Yeah.
She really didn't know what happened. She just knew that she didn't make it out, and he did.
Yeah.
And so clearly, in her mind, the story was that he killed her or he was responsible for her
Responsible for
death.
some reason.
And so now she
And
got,
again, we got to repeat that was what was told to her by Val.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we saw her being told something. So yeah, I mean, it's we're getting a more clearer picture. Again, what does Val know is another conversation. We know that Val knows stuff that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
She claims that something crazy is gonna happen, or
Right.
things are about to get crazy. So clearly,
Yeah.
she knows stuff that we don't know. But yeah, I mean, I thought that scene was very interesting. Like you said, a little bit cliche, but I enjoyed it because we knew that was going to be their
Yeah.
interaction whenever they ran into each other. And yeah, I mean, it's emotional.
Yeah.
Those were
In
both
some ways, it's
characters.
like the first time you really are dealing with Yelena actually coming to grips with Natasha's death, which I think is why it's so emotional. Because
Right.
we see her 5 years later after the snap saying, "I gotta find my sister." We don't see her reaction when she learns her sister is dead. We see her at the grave, and Val comes and says, "I got a mission for you. This your target is the person that killed your sister." She just sees a picture. Again, no real reaction. She comes to New York and she has that conversation with Kate in the apartment. And she's very kind of cool, matter of fact about it. Yeah, it's not gonna be easy. I mean, it is gonna be easy. It's gonna be easy to take out this assignment, but hey, let's get some macaroni and cheese and let's talk
Right.
about how great New York City is. Like
Right.
this scene is really your first scene with like her having to really kind of say come to grips with this death. In some ways, it's almost like maybe we don't see the grief, but maybe she really hasn't dealt with the grief because in her mind, she's like, look, if I just take out the person that's responsible, then then I can really respond to this. But like this thing is not over. Like her death isn't over until the person that is responsible is 6 feet under.
Right.
So I thought that was why I think that scene was emotional and well done. And Florence Pugh again, spectacular. I thought Jeremy Renner was good in the scene as well, because this is kind of her first real kind of like dealing with this massive situation.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like this character, Yelena, has gotten a lot of development in this series.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when we're going to see her next. I mean, we knew coming off of Black Widow that we would see her next in this. Past this, I don't know when we're going to see her next.
Right.
But that tends to be the MCU in a lot of ways. We don't know when we're going to see Bucky next.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of characters where we don't know where we're going to see them. But wherever we see them next, wherever we see her next, is going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting sort of development because she's not the same character that we necessarily saw in Black Widow. Now
Right.
things have changed in terms of her dynamics. But yeah, Do we think that they have uh do we think that they've established a friendship between her and Kate Bishop, or is that
I think so. I think
yeah
we're gonna. I think we're because I first of all those scenes of them fighting each other and
the
going through the elevators and going through the different floors. Some of the continuous shots, the kind of horizontal shooting of them going through different rooms,
yeah
different offices. One guy's working Christmas Eve and they're fighting through. Like it was all really well done. Um, I hope that I think we'll see though again. I'd see them again together. I think this was in many ways their way to kind of like I don't know if you'll see them together in like a movie or so like like a Kate Bishop and Black Widow movie.
right
But I think that they're trying to establish like a kinship or a friendship that you'll see play out in a lot of other
right
projects. Whether it's something Yelena's doing, maybe she texts Kate every now and then, or
right
maybe it's something whatever. Maybe it's a Young Avengers thing, and
and
maybe Yelena shows up somehow, and we
right
know that friendship. I think a lot of these Disney Plus shows that the purpose is to kind of establish certain connections, certain story beats that will make sense very immediately once you see them together. Where we won't say, oh, why are they so chummy? Or whatever. You'll know kind of very immediately.
yeah, and I mean it's gonna be very apropos and very just very poetic that Hawkeye and Black Widow continue to have a relationship, but just a different
Right.
version of Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Right.
You
And I
know,
think that that's smart too.
yeah,
It makes a lot of sense. So the show ends up wrapping up with, again, also the fight scene on the ice, even before Yelena gets on with all those tracksuits and showcasing all those trick
yeah.
arrows. Super cool.
We got the opposite of the Pym, the Pym Shrinker
Yeah.
arrow, which is interesting. He said, I don't know. I gotta ask Scott how this works. They say like that.
Yeah. There's also a lot of we see that a lot of his arrows are made by Stark
Yeah.
Enterprises. So
Yeah.
we see that connection has remained intact even post Civil War.
Yeah. And post never mind. I was gonna say post No Way Home.
Oh yeah, maybe
Stark Industries is in a different state.
yeah, for sure. So we get to kind of the end finale of the series, and Kate Kate and Clint, they're successful. Kate calls the cops on her mom, and her mom is now off to prison. We assume, or definitely to jail for now, for the killing of Armand. And Clint has invited Kate with her to go back home to their Shield black site, wherever the hell he lives. Because we as we now know, a lot of this is
He's neighbors with Ajax and Eternals. In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So because we know he lives very far away from most civilization for the sake of safety. And he's invited Kate home for Christmas. And Lucky, the dog, finally gets a name, Lucky, so that's great, of course. And we get the introduction of Kate to his wife Laura, to the kids. The kids of course love the dog, so it's all nice, warm fuzzies for Christmas. They make it back in time, obviously, which was important as well. And Clint comes back with the watch that we've been asking about since the beginning. And as what was going on, what was the deal with the watch, and what did it mean, what was the significance? And when he says, "This is yours." He gives the watch to his wife Laura, and when she flips over the watch, we see the Shield emblem and number 19. Now, the significance of this for people who are familiar with the comic book canon is in the comic books, Agent 19 is Mockingbird. Mockingbird, at one point in time, was married to Clint Barton in the comic books. So this is the conversation we had a couple weeks ago on the podcast. Is Laura Mockingbird? How does this work? Whatever was done in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we know there was a Bobby Morse character.
They didn't step on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. We got to cut the cap that's going on a lot of these major websites. I'm not gonna name names, but a lot of people saying, "Oh, this officially destroys the Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon."
No, it doesn't.
That's cap.
People are saying that.
Yes, I don't know if you've seen a lot of these headlines. I've
seen
seen plenty of headlines from major outlets that are saying this, and y'all got to cut the cap.
It's honestly the exact opposite. It doesn't.
They did everything but destroy the
easily could have called her Mockingbird in this,
right?
And that would have put Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a bad spot,
right? And they don't.
They never called.
Or they could have. Or if they would have gave Laura Agent 19 and somehow Bobby was already Agent 19 in the Agents
Right.
of
That's what
Shield.
I'm saying.
Even that could still be kind of finagled. Say, oh well, she
Right.
retired, she's
Yeah, a different
whatever.
point.
But even
Yeah.
if you want to say, okay, that will be more of a
Yeah, but
stepping on Agents of
I don't
Shield.
believe she was ever Agent
She
19.
was never called Agent 19, and neither of them were ever called Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So there's no. So we're still fine, people.
Yeah.
Like, people that are freaking out that Agents of Shield has been decanonized. That's just cap. Is the only thing I can say. It's 100%. I'm wearing the right shirt today.
Yeah.
To talk about how I feel about these people that are talking about all this. Marvel Agents of Shield is no longer canon. It's nonsense.
Yeah. I mean,
Though it was a good scene though. I liked the scene. I thought it made perfect sense. But I had to get that off my chest because that's been annoying reading these headlines today.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the theory, 2 or 3 episodes ago that this was a possibility. It makes sense, and look, it adds to the character. I think I just wish. I don't know. I like it, but I don't know if it tells me anything. But that, like, a lot of the people that are watching this felt like, oh, so she's a Shield agent. That's cool. But and so maybe they didn't even get the Mockingbird connection. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, is there any other layer to this? It doesn't sound like there is. It just sounds like it's like an Easter egg,
right?
That yes, Clint's wife was a former Shield agent who happened to be Agent 19. That's cool, but I there is no what does this mean?
And
doesn't mean
the
anything.
reason why I know exactly what you're saying and I agree, and why it's somewhat problematic is because so much this conflict all begins over this watch.
Yeah, the black market.
I mean, the only reason why Hawkeye is even hanging around New York longer than he has to be is that this watch is out there.
Yeah.
So now we understand, which makes perfect sense. Now, to be clear, I don't want to act like, oh, this was nothing, because it's clearly this watch probably would have somehow linked to her, and there would have been an identity. The identity of her would have been compromised potentially if someone just got in the wrong hands. Though you could argue if it's in a black market auction, you could argue it's been in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
But whatever. But nonetheless, when you bill it as something so important, and in some ways it is, but then the fallout is really just an Easter egg. I don't know. I think that I wish there would have been a little bit more to that. I wish there could have been perhaps not only did it have Laura's identification, maybe it would have identified a lot of other people who are out there that are former Shield agents, and maybe we could have learned about some new heroes that we didn't know about. People that like if there was if she was Mockingbird, is there other superheroes that are retired that we don't know? Like, there could have been some cool things with that, and it kind of just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But other than say, hey, she's Mockingbird.
Look,
like a wink nod. We don't even know she was Mockingbird. She's a wink nod to like, hey, this was probably Mockingbird.
Basically Mockingbird, yeah.
Which is kind of obvious from like episode 2 or 3.
Right. Right. Now, I mean, I feel like it goes to, it's a Hawkeye show. So like if you're doing a Hawkeye show, having a Mockingbird Easter egg is going to be a big deal for a Hawkeye show. Yeah. It's not like a big deal for the Avengers or a big deal in the MCU in a large sense, but for that character, there's a big connection. So I get it. But yeah, and I think that's another one of the big issues with this episode that I think people had is just the way it ended, kind of flatly. Not necessarily, the last act, but more so the post credits and
the last scene,
the send off.
The last scene.
There was nothing. I mean, Kingpin gets shot, which again we know he's not dead. It's a little deflating that Kingpin, what he said,
takes another L.
Just a very bad day.
He's having a bad day,
and takes another L.
Yeah,
and then that's it. Then we have Christmas, and then nothing.
Yeah, well, it wasn't nothing. We had the post credit scene, which was the actual full performance of the "Save the City" song from Rogers.
It was a great performance, by the way.
It was really good. It's kind of funny. You watch this and you're like, this probably really should be like a musical, because it's like it's entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it was good in terms of how it was performed. That was bad in terms of just ending the series like that.
Yeah, particularly only because Marvel has set such a precedent of making their post-credit scene so
There's
important.
some payoff,
and they've established that precedent on their Disney Plus series to a degree, to a pretty big degree, honestly.
Definitely.
That they're at least going to be something,
Yeah.
what the degree of it. Obviously, the first one, WandaVision, was huge. The Falcon and Winter Soldier one was not as big, but still was there. I don't remember what the Loki one was. Was that the one with Kang? Not where we see the statue.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the post credit scene or the last scene, but
I'm not sure. I don't remember for sure. But
that was essentially the send off again.
Yeah.
Another huge deal. This doesn't have that, which again, it's just disappointing.
And I think the reason why it's disappointing also because there were so many things you could do. You could show Eleanor Bishop in prison. You could show Kingpin surviving that shooting.
Show Echo driving off somewhere.
Echo, doing something, going to some city that may matter to her canon.
Right. We don't need.
There are so many loose ends to this story still.
Right.
Okay, Christmas is saved, and they go back to the Shield Black site to celebrate Christmas. That's nice, but there's a lot of other. We've introduced a lot of other characters involved in this
that we're going to see in the future.
That we're going to see in the future. Where did Yelena go? Did Yelena go to Val and say, "Yo, you told me homeboy killed Natasha. What the hell's going on?"
We could write plenty of post.
I just wrote 4 just in the last minute. You know what I'm saying? So there's stuff that could have been done,
and some that don't even need to. Some that could be scrapped if you wanted to change the idea. Like you said, Eleanor being in prison. That's very vague. It's a lot like the Lex Luthor, one in BVS.
BVS.
Where he's in prison, and that didn't really mean anything. It didn't really lead to anything. But it just all it does is establish that Lex Luthor is in prison after what happened.
Yeah, and that the dark side is
out there. Yeah, he's coming. Those sources, which again didn't really lead to anything much.
Yeah, it didn't happen, right?
Until we got to Snyder's.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, they didn't make that effort. My guess is something got cut. My guess is they had plans.
Could be for
a post-credit scene. I would assume it's something Echo Kingpin related.
I think so too.
That they decided to cut, and for whatever reason, maybe they want to put it in Echo. I've heard speculation that maybe that's what happened, but yeah. I think your idea of having something Yelena related would have been good because again, we don't know what's going on with her character.
No.
And we may have a better idea. We're gonna see Val again probably very soon.
I was surprised we didn't see her in this. I thought we were going to see her in this episode. I was shocked.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it would make sense given what's going on. I just think when we got so much Kingpin, it almost made it we would have jumbled it up even more. But yeah, her character. I mean, I'm excited to see more of her character.
I am too.
Louis-Dreyfus has done an excellent job. Two or three times we've seen her, she's done excellent.
Yeah, you can make the case that she's one of the most intriguing figures in the MCU right now.
Going forward, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about people I most want to see where their story is going. I mean, she's top 3 for me. It's I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah, she's almost like
she's
the new
clearly, yeah. I mean, she's clearly amassing some names and some heavy hitters. But what does she know? What is she even doing?
Right.
We don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that she's a intriguing character. She would have made sense to appear here.
Yeah, and we'll see her again soon, I would assume, but yeah, I mean, quite the interesting finale, quite the strong line of developments. I just think there are a lot of people that were disappointed with the Kingpin portrayal, and they were disappointed with the ending.
Mm-hmm. So, but nonetheless, a lot of good things to take away from this episode too. I think that gets us right to our scores. So, what are you going to give the season finale of Hawkeye episode 6? So This Is Christmas.
The finale, I'll go a 7.5. I thought this was a good finale. I thought it had a lot of action. I thought it really, we saw a lot of development for the Kate Bishop character. By the end, you kind of do feel convinced that she's a hero, and that when we see her in the Young Avengers, we see her in Ant-Man, Quantumania, or whenever we see her next. Which again, also they never really established where we're going to see her next. Are we going to Hawkeye season 2? Maybe at this point because we don't know. But regardless, you feel that she could be a hero at this point. I liked the sort of thing of her trying to figure out her name, and it's like I have an idea, and it just goes to Hawkeye.
Right.
But yeah, no, I thought this was a good finale. The Kingpin stuff, I thought D'Onofrio did as good a job as he could have done with what they gave him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, This was some Vince McMahon booking, in terms of how they
Definitely,
decided to
yeah.
put him.
I seen people say this is like a main event carrying cross. Or
Yeah,
this is when Vince McMahon takes on WCW like a Booker T,
yeah, some legend.
has him lose to the Rock in his first match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was tough, but otherwise, I thought this was a very good finale, and a very good show overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 8.5. I thought this was a good finale. It was not perfect. I think in many ways, the like if you told me what the writing was, I'd tell you the writing is probably like a 7.
Right.
But if you told me what like the performance level was for almost everybody involved, I'd probably go 9.5. Like the intensity of everything, the action, you know, we can complain about D'Onofrio again. I didn't have as many issues as some of the fans online did with what they did with him, and he's still excellent. Like if we come to the grip saying, let's say we didn't know anything about this Netflix character that we were introduced to, and you told me this is who Kingpin is in the MCU, you'd be ecstatic. You'd be like, this is incredible. This guy's acting is so good.
Yeah.
His portrayal is perfect. Like, so I don't want to just like take, I knew all this canon from the Netflix and just have it all just influence my whole thoughts on what I saw in this episode, because what I saw was still excellent. So he was excellent. Again, Yelena Belova, the Florence Pugh character, excellent again.
Yeah.
Shout out to the LARPers. I thought that they had a funny kind of aspect to this episode, and it made sense because they're cops and first responders. So I was like, okay, this actually, because first I was like, this seems a little goofy. But I was like, well, no, they're cops and first responders. So, okay, this actually does make some sense.
Yeah.
So there were some things in here that were really good, and that were great, I would argue. But yeah, some of the rushed writing, I think, is what holds it back. I think from being like a outstanding finale. To me, it was a very good finale. But I think they need another episode. I think they probably needed to kind of deal with the Kingpin stuff, and then maybe Yelena, maybe the Eleanor Bishop stuff, and then maybe get another episode to deal with Yelena. I think trying to match it all into one ended up and Kazi's a big part of it. Like, I think that again, Maya, there's a lot of characters they're trying to juggle, and that's why the episode was long. Part of it, like, I think that they could have separated some of those things, made it an extra episode. This would have been a lot easier.
And I dinged it in part. Hey, look, I probably dinged it half a point for the post-credit scene being nothing. And,
I did not like that.
And that if you had a cool post-credit scene, I probably would have gave it an 8 just based off of the excitement.
Yeah.
I've also seen some people argue, do we have to get away from the whole waiting, to have this massive reveal at the end, where then you have to just shoehorn a whole episode of Kingpin? Like, if he's the big bad, you got to introduce him earlier than this. Like, they decided.
Yeah, I mean, it almost makes you wonder, like, was this like added very late in the game? Like, not added, like, obviously I'm talking about, like, did they kind of play around with the idea and then they not know until maybe after filming the second episode that they got him? Right. You know what I'm saying? That's like that would be my question. Right. Because I agree with you, but this is what we got. Right. And that couldn't have been Plan A.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's the case, then that's interesting. Because like you said, what we got felt rushed.
And what I give them a break about is Marvel, they've shown us, and I always talk about a lot of this industry is giving the people what they want. They've shown us that, hey, even if it's maybe even if it's a day short and $1 late, if they can get us what the people want, they will try. We saw it with Spider-Man and Civil War. This to me could be I think we saw it with these, whatever. There's not no home spoilers, but I think some of the stuff that happened in No Way Home, I certainly don't think they had all that stuff nailed down the minute they began shooting at all. Right. Some of that stuff definitely was done probably as shooting began. Right. So they're willing to amend, reshoot, do things to make things work. So that may be me giving them a little bit of a pass with that, saying, okay, I don't know if D'Onofrio was signed on when this thing was launched, but the fact that they got him in, even if it wasn't perfect, I'm still going to give them a lot of credit for that.
And it sounds like the last thing that Doctor Strange may be like that. It sounds like She-Hulk may be like that, where there's some stuff that may be wonky, and you may be like, what is all of this? But the moment is more important than maybe even
the execution.
Yeah, the execution. You're right.
Yeah, so I think that all makes
and the
sense.
moment still is incredible.
It's still a big moment.
We got
Wilson Fisk, the first I mean, for him to be the first guy to be in anything MCU is still very important.
Yes.
So it's a milestone moment.
Just barely beat. Oh, never mind.
It's a milestone moment. This is a fun series to follow. Thank you guys for checking out this edition of our Hawkeye episode recap and review. Of course, leave our comments in the comment section of what you thought about the season finale, what you thought about the season as a whole, what did you think about the introduction to Wilson Fisk. Also, be sure to give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel New Generation Media for all of our superhero and sports content. That's going to do it for now, though. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.